Are you watching that crazy situation going on right now? Today, we're going to be talking more about the battle that is trying to divide the conservative movement into fractions. We've got Bannon and Levin and Shapiro and Tucker and Fuentes with everybody and Candace Owens against Turning Point, of all things. I mean, we are looking at warfare that came after Charlie Kirk's death that I never would have anticipated would be released on the conservative Christian community. I thought we would mobilize, but we're actually forming circular firing squads on a daily basis. So I'm exposing that today and going after it because we got to deal with this spiritually. If the Christians don't, in prayer, end this thing, we're going to lose the midterms, and the revival that we saw at the Reformation is going to be grounded to a halt. Trump will be doing impeachment stuff. And I swear we do not want to see civil war in America, but the only way to avoid the violence that the left is bringing on the right is to do spiritual warfare so that no violence happens in America. We got to show up. By the way, the markets are going to be fluttering up and down. Right now, they're moving up, but guess what? They were going down. One interruption of one incident between China and the United States or Russia could send the markets into crazy zone. Why don't you go to lancewallnau.com/gold and talk to one of the experts on why silver is up 200% right now. Hey man, it's only like $50 to get yourself get yourself on that toboggan. It's going up. It's going up. It's 200% in the last 2 years. Gold, I don't know, a couple of 100%. Gone from what, 2,000 to 4,000 since I've been talking about it. Go to lancewallnau.com/gold. Don't delay. You got your retirement account? Put it in that silver, man. Silver is hot right now. Go to lancewallnau.com/gold and ask about the silver. And I'll talk to you about that. When you've done it, let me know what you've done because we're going to compare notes. Let's get into today's broadcast.
Well, here we are back again. By the way, I'm going to get a new set one of these days. I'm taking a look at it. You're going to come around the holidays. You're going to notice because, I've got one font for Lance Wallnau there. I got another We the People font down here. Certain brand people said, a little too much going on here. So we're going to have a new set. I'm prophesying it because we're going to have a new look coming in the new year. Meanwhile, I want to go back to the subject at hand. What do we do with the addiction to the conspiracy theory that just is, it just stimulates I don't know how to describe it, but it's a spiritual addiction. The Bible refers to something called itching ears. The Apostle Paul said that in the last days, people will heap up for themselves teachers because they have itching ears. It's an interesting language. It means that they don't want to hear normal stuff. They want to hear weird stuff because it stimulates and provokes. And well, I'm going to give you more normal because we got to deal with the crazy Candace stuff going on. So, Officer Tatum, the thing that he said here in this segment, a couple of things that I thought was interesting, but one of them was, do you realize how these beautiful young people, I ended the last segment talking about this, they're not built for this kind of conflict. It's great courage on every campus where the students are coming forward and wanting to have a turning point, chapter on the campus. And then the left comes, no, and the administration says, no. And then the lawyers come along and say, you got the courage, we'll fight it for you. Yeah, we'll fight, we'll take it on. And then boom, the lawyers come along. And then we're at a moment now where our culture is going back and forth. I mean, we're still figuring out what kind of country we're going to be. But virtue is winning, and the campuses are getting their chapters. But then these thugs, these dangerous, violent, paramilitary leftists that kill people and burn down buildings and destroy Tesla dealerships, they show up also. And so you're seeing that at UC Berkeley, where chaos outside of Turning Point gathering ends with multiple arrests. The anti-Turning Point Antifa crowd shows up, of course, at Berkeley, with a fireball was ignited, a car backfired, spooking agitators. and a man is in a viral video beating a Trump supporter, a Turning Point person near the University Berkeley campus on Monday evening has been arrested. That guy charged with a violent crime. Thank God they got a video of him breaking a necklace off of another guy and then pounding him. One of the men was wearing a red T-shirt that said "Freedom," the same shirt that Charlie was wearing when he was assassinated. But that was all it took. He was beaten and bloodied because he dared to try to wear the symbol of Charlie's assassination. Police, upon further investigation, found a second man involved in the fight. Was trying to attempt to rob the guy of his necklace. You're looking at the footage here. If you're listening to me on a podcast, I'm playing B-roll that shows that the suspects, male and female, had turned violent against what? Conservatives who just had their young 31-year-old founder shot in the neck and murdered in cold blood in front of the world. And now they've got the violence. Inexcusable. Inexcusable. All right, Officer Tatum, you were retired. You left the police force. You became a Turning Point spokesperson. I enjoyed talking to you, but let me play a little bit more of his interview here. Go and play cut 3.
Back to the whole thing. I just think that I don't understand the level that people go to try to think or say that Israel was behind this, to say that Turning Point was behind this. I know these young people. They wouldn't hurt a fly. I was on campus and I got attacked at UC Davis. Now, I could have whooped all these little non-binaries myself. I wouldn't even ball my fist. I could have just been slapping them left and right. But I was trying to protect the image of Turning Point and not be the black man knocking out college kids. You know, I'm 30-some years old. So I kind of like just made sure I defended myself or whatever the case may be. But the kids that were doing the film were flustered. I mean, they're shaking. They don't know how to handle conflict. I was a cop, and I fight people and pulling guns on people. And so these young people are scared. They don't know how to handle conflict. They're intimidated. They don't know what to do. They want to quit. They want to go home. And these aren't people that will coordinate an assassination. You get what I'm saying? These young people on campus are now getting death threats. Young people who are working with Turning Point and now being framed as being a part of some collusion to get rid of Charlie Kirk. And it's very hurtful. Erica, I don't know her as well as I know Candace, but Erica, every time I've met her, she's so sweet. Like you see her, like, you see, that's like she's genuine, like that. When you talk to her, she's so like, I'm praying for you. God bless you. I love you. Thank you so much. It's so sweet. Every time I see her, she's like that. So when I see her now in her grief, I'm like, this is exactly who she really is. It's not a front. And she's a really strong believer in God, and so she knows how to compose herself to do a press conference. And then she's probably falling apart at night. I mean, I can't stop tearing up thinking about the babies, so it bothers me when I see stuff. And it's not just what Candace is saying. It bothers me when I see all these people saying these things, knowing that the video team is in fear for their lives. People want to kill them. People are shaming them. And they watch Charlie get killed in front of them. These guys are not in war. Like, they're not like my guy who protect me, who's a decorated military guy. They have never seen people get beat up in front of them. They've never seen a conflict. They probably never fought anybody. To see Charlie get shot and blood gush from his neck and watch all his trauma happen, they're damaged for life.
They're damaged for life. And these are the people Candace and company are vilifying as part of the internal military-industrial framework of Seven Mountains infiltrators, as though Charlie got off track. It wasn't what Turning Point was. Well, Candace, you don't know what Turning Point became because Charlie was adept at coalition building. He could text you and he could text David Rubin. He could text a Joe Rogan, you could text a Tucker Carlson. He was building a coalition for conservative causes, but he wasn't inviting you onto the platform, was he? He wasn't bringing you out to Amerifest, was he? He was making sure that you were loved and stayed in a good relationship, but he had enough discerning to know that for some reason you weren't that trusted. But he was increasing in his strength. He was becoming like Stephen in the book of Acts. He was bringing his conservative worldview to its logical next step as he studied at Hillsdale and began to look at the philosophical foundation of Aristotle and Plato and the Enlightenment and the founders and the Reformation teaching. And he began to build a hierarchy in his mind that God must be preeminent to have an ordered society, and that it's not enough to just defeat the argument regarding capitalism versus Marxism or boy, versus girl in terms of gender. If we're going to bring it back to the Bible, let's go to the ultimate question. God exists and man is accountable to God. Under God, God has an order, and under the order, he wants men and women, the nuclear family, to be able to have children, to have meaningful work, to have self-expression. And as citizens, they have to guard the freedoms that God has given them, or they will lose those freedoms. He built an ordered philosophical structure, and he brought that to the forefront. And that's the reason why the Bible and Jesus were so important, because unless a person can submit himself to the righteousness of God through Christ, recognizing that I am sinful, that my warring propensities, my self-indulgence, my lawlessness requires a restraint. And either it's external by government or it's internal, and God puts that internal compass on the inside of you the moment Jesus comes into your heart. So you see, Candace, it wasn't as though he got off because he was infiltrated. He actually went beyond you. That's why he left you where you were, because he got clearer while you're in the fog. And trust me, if he's coming to anyone to go speak to them at night, he's going to slip into the dream life of his wife and not you. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but I mean, let's face it, since I'm evidently the organizer of January 6th and working with the Pentagon on a hit squad, I have a right to my own opinion. She is disconnected from reality. She has slipped the cog. She's one hamburger short of a Happy Meal, or whatever the saying is. But pray for her. I'm praying that her influence is unplugged, because our movement cannot afford to have a circular firing squad with the Jewish people at the middle of it. We have to get our act together, or the left is going to beat us up in the midterms, and that must not have. Charlie was here. He'd say, stop it. Get your focus on the enemy that is here. This movement is violent and destructive. We've got to stop it. It's a political battle we're in.
I got something coming in January at the Trump Doral with all of my favorite doctors. I got a whole group of medical experts going to talk about making you maha healthy. You're going to make you healthy and going to make you wealthy and make you wise for the race of your life, because we're not going to lose. Last year at this time we were celebrating. This year at this time we got a wake-up call, but we're going to win this battle and not lose. Go to lancewallnau.com/wellness, and you'll see why Wallnau is doing a wellness conference January 15th through 18th at the Trump Doral. Listen, it's cold up north. Come down to Florida. All right, lancewallnau.com/wellness. Save your seat.
So how does the left take over the West? This is basically, you would recognize this, you that are more educated on these subjects. It's the long march through the institutions. This was the socialist Gramsci's theory as the Italian father of institutional takeover, who ironically was locked up by Mussolini. But the guy said, if we can get into the institutions, we can take over the West for Marxism and socialism and ruin and dismantle the Christian influence over culture. And the way that we do it is we got to get into the church. We have to invade the family. And so I was saying that part of the same-sex marriage agenda and the BLM agenda was to shatter and blow up the mom, dad, and child scenario and make it man, man, woman, woman with whatever. So this is, and I'm telling you, it's a demonic entity. It's a demonic ideology, because this It literally says we're going to go after the church, we're going after the family. In education, we're going to train them from K through 12. Why do you think they want to do drag queen hour with your children? Because they want to normalize the absurd with children. And then why do you have a 30-to-1 or 18-to-1 ratio of left-wing professors to conservative professors at the university level? All these mountains will be educated, will be led by college graduates. I mean, that's where we put the social capital in the West. Get a college degree. Well, you go to the top colleges in the country, and what do they have? They have a DEI qualifying curriculum, no longer the students with the greatest aptitude, but representing diversity, dropping the standard, and then basically programming them with an 18-to-1 ratio to 30-to-1 ratio of professors who aren't there to teach you how to think, but are propagandizing you with what to think. That's why you find 64% of your students, anyone under 30, voting for socialism. Soros has gotten, and these guys, these cats, and not just Soros, the Ties Foundations, I could give you a list of 30 organizations that are all on the same bandwidth. What they have in common, weirdly enough, is they don't want a conservative worldview or a Christian worldview. So education gets taken, family gets redefined, church goes woke. Then do I have to tell you what happens in media? Where stories are going to be distorted, misrepresented, spun. Soros has just got, I think he put a $300 million, well, he has 300 stations, radio stations he's buying. So I'm watching conservative guys now getting moved off of radio stations because the stations are being bought. Media is the first thing that, oddly enough, the fascists take over. The moment they take government here, they go and grab media. Because the government is the crown power that has the fist and the police that enforces everything, and this is the propaganda vehicle. What am I showing you? The 7 mountains that I teach over here is actually 7 spheres that disciple a nation. And if you're not careful, you will see the family invaded, education taken over, media propagandized, government will rule over everything. Your arts and entertainment will then be likewise controlled by the propaganda arm, normalizing what never should be normal. Do you know that there are scripts in Hollywood that up until Trump came back in, that they were actually requiring that you have to have so much of this has to be like representing gay-friendly or trans. In other words, within the script, the approved Hollywood script, there had to be some form of genuflection to these ideologies in order to be tolerant and diverse, to have the diversity in Hollywood production. And then, of course, you've got the business mountain over here. The reason I'm pointing this out is, as I looked at it, I said, what part of this should a Christian not be involved with? So I come back to my illustration here, and I say, well, let me just think about this for a second. Let me try to get some better colors here. We'll go with red right now. I think that the church really needs to be preaching the full gospel. I don't think they should be bowing to the pressure of woke ideology. I don't even think there should be a wall there between the church and the rest of culture. I think you're supposed to go into all the world. Go into all of it. I think the family structure and the church should be influenced by godliness. And I think that the relationship of a family is only going to be as strong as the fathers are strong. And the fathers are strong when there's a culture that reinforces the role of men. But if men are going to be beat up by the left so that they all look like thugs and like they're toxic masculinity, then they all become feminized and they try to do what you're telling them to do. And then you don't have family structure anymore. And by the way, where do you think all the criminal activity is coming in right now? You call it racist, but it's just data. The majority of hard crimes are being done by fatherless black males because the system is set up in such a way that it incentivizes the mother not to be married in order to be able to get checks. So the baby daddies, which is what we find out, they have multiple children with different men, completely atomizing and destroying the nuclear family for the black community, which up until the 1960s had an 80% strength in terms of family origin. And then from the 1960s down, you see the fragmentation of the African-American household. And you see the rise of crime with young men that don't have fathers. Listen, this is just data. I got this, by the way, from from black economists who explained to me the destruction of the nuclear family and the impact of it disproportionately on the black community. But what you see here in education, should there not be a conservative argument? Charlie Kirk, talking about him, was killed because he came onto the campus and brought an alternative, holistic worldview rooted in conservative ideals, founded on biblical principles, philosophically grounded arguments that could help take a child out of chaos into coherence. He became that lone voice in the education mountain. But don't you think we need to have, what I'm doing now is I'm talking to you on media. Don't you think we need to have broadcasting that challenges ideas, freedom of speech that allows other worldviews to come along? And how about in terms of government, conservative government that can Christians not serve in government? Is a person allowed to be a Muslim mayor of New York, and everyone on the left celebrates the fact that they have that diversity? But if a Christian runs as a Christian mayor of New York, well, that's Christian nationalism. Do you notice where the politics plays in the narrative there? And how about the arts mountain? You don't think we can create God-glorifying stories that inspire people? Does everything have to be violent, garish, or perverse in order to be able to sell? No. Storytelling is the art of the Gospels. Can Christians not participate? Can Michelangelo not paint a ceiling? And how about the business world? In terms of economics, there should be a ladder that allows people to go up, but people should not be punished because they aren't the right political persuasion, which has been happening to conservatives for too long. Debanking. I've had it happen to me. We've had it happen to others, where the environment punishes you because you come out of the closet as a Trump supporter. So what I'm showing you here is this is what is typically called the 7 mountains of culture. And the reason why guys like me are being vilified is because we're saying Christians must get engaged, because these structures here are actually high places of influence. Whoever controls the education mountain is controlling the formation of the values and thinking of the next generation. Whoever controls that media apparatus is taking the truth, or they're perverting the truth. Which one would you rather have for society? And what we're saying is these 7 areas actually are areas that Christians are allowed to make a living in. And if you're a Christian, you bring the health of your worldview, the hope of your worldview, the coherence of your worldview into that arena, and you should not be punished because you have a biblical worldview. And now I'm coming along to something that took place. I asked for some data from my team here. What happened with Charlie Kirk? I want to go right back to this inflection point, because we're being attacked. Now, suddenly, January 6th, because of the influence of people like Candace, now the people involved with January 6th are being reframed again as insurrectionists, when in fact we were up there to try to protect free elections. Which you've got now, and then you have the insertion of, I think, the federal government and the Antifa crowd to create the chaos that was utilized by media against Trump and against his movement. And now the narrative's being shifted. Somebody is talking to Candace and giving her, it's worming into her thinking. That and 100 other points of departure from reality I think we need to focus on. But when I think about what happened with Charlie, look at the demonic attack. I believe a demonic attack happened. You talk about spiritual warfare, not just in killing him, but his great fear before that attack happened to him was he was worried about Mondami and the under 30 crowd for 2 reasons. One, they were becoming anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, and he saw that and was trying to figure out how to address that. He saw them frustrated because they can't own homes and they would easily fall prey to socialism. He wanted to beef up the Turning Point presence on campuses and utilize media and continue to get out the vote. He would be fanatical right now about stopping the infighting. Stop it, all of you, and focus on the midterm elections that are coming, because the goal of the left is to disembowel Trump's power so that they could impeach him, take him out, and recapture the White House and put the government back in power, the corrupt government back in power. That's where he'd be focused. I mean, look what happened. Before he was killed, he was focusing on Mondami. He was focusing on his concern for the under 30 electoral crowd and their ability to own a home. Because if they don't have they don't have that confidence that America will work for them, they will fall prey to the seduction of socialist alternatives. Yeah, the system's rigged. I'm going to go get it so that you can own a home. Well, up until then, his fear was the violence that was coming because of the mental illness that is in the trans movement. Understand, mental illness makes a man think he's trapped in the wrong body. This is not normal. I don't care what you say. You go ahead and give me all the PhDs in the world and all the left-wing money that wants to take a child's genitals and mutilate them so he can grow up, a boy can wear a dress because mom thinks he's a girl. None of that is making sense. So, but the violence that is in the trans movement plus the Antifa violence, the combination of trans Antifa especially was what killed him. Now look at this. When that happened, we had a shooting incident with trans in Minnesota, August 27, 2025. Another shooting incident, 2023, March 27th. November 22nd, Colorado. May 7th, 2019. Charlie Kirk killed by Antifa combined with this. And what do we have? We have an opportunity with which to look at the Democrat Party as a socialist party that supports left-wing violence, particularly the trans issue and the Antifa problem. And at that moment, where do we go? The problem is obviously the Jews and the military and its turning point itself. That is the enemy. That's the lunacy. This is now the argument we got. Tell me that the devil hasn't succeeded in taking what should be during a midterm, 1 year till midterms, instead of focusing on the left and the danger of what they represent, we are now focusing on anti-Semitism, and you've got infighting from Levin with Bannon and Shapiro with who is it? Fuentes or Tucker Carlson. It's the devil dividing this MAGA movement. And what's sad about it is what should have been the unifying focus has now become the fragmented focus where we're in a circular firing squad. And this next week, I got to answer because people like me are being brought in as though we are the problem. The Christians praying for America, laboring for its revival, struggling at a key inflection point to see it made stable. I need your help. We're going to need to pray like we've never prayed, because this is the most powerful supernatural psyops operation, boom, to fragment the cohesion of the American MAGA base at a time when we need to be the most focused. We are now shooting each other. Tell me that ain't the devil. All right. We'll come back again in our next broadcast and pick up on this cheery holiday note. Where do we go from here?
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends.